Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Man, it's been a long time since I did that, Tom.
Wow, it's been 3 days. It's not that long.
I almost forgot. I was like, do I go right, left, right? Or do I go left, right, left?
Is it your right or the right as your face as the viewers are watching?
See, this is the problem. You know, people have been missing this for a couple of days, our witty banter.
I know. I'm sure that is exactly what they have been missing as our introductory banter. So good morning, everyone, to this special Saturday edition of today's Antidote. If you noticed, we were missing Thursday and Friday morning.
If you didn't notice, it's okay.
If you didn't notice, it's okay. And you're like, wow, why are they going live on a Saturday? They haven't done that in a while. And so, as you know, or maybe you don't know, if you haven't ever seen our broadcast, this is where we try to provide that one thing, the one thing that's going to help you move forward throughout the day. We have a discussion around the topic. We hope that if you have thoughts to share, you will share that as a part of the discussion. And at the end, Bob and I will each provide our one thing. And again, if you have something you'd like to share, please do, because we know that it will make a difference and add value to someone else who may be searching for that thing that sparks that next step for them that they were stuck on. So please feel free to share any thoughts you have in the comments during the broadcast, or if you're watching the recording, just add some as well. And we will respond and it will help others. So Bob, before we get into our topic of conversation, which is personal brand. And today we'll talk a little bit about when you don't meet your intentions. Let's talk about the last 2 days, or maybe we even talk about the whole week.
Well, for me, this has been a week of incredible opportunity, but also huge frustration. You and I didn't communicate well early in the week and didn't plan the week well the week before. And as a result, we didn't do our program for 2 mornings in a row. We had done it every weekday morning, one way or another, until Thursday. Every single one for 15 months, 16 months.
It's almost a total of a year's worth, 363 episodes. Almost a full year's worth of episodes that covered about almost 16 months.
And I was really upset when you texted me or sent me a message and said that your wife pointed out that we had broken our streak. That really bothered me. Like, I was fit to be tied for about an hour. And then the next day it didn't work out. And we were both guilty, and, both share responsibility. And it is what it is. It's not like we've overslept or anything. We both were doing work. And, I think what it says to me is we've gotten used to a certain lifestyle with the pandemic. You and I have not been as busy as we both are right now. This is how you and I were a couple of years ago when we would book out coffee 2 weeks in advance.
Right.
Because we were so busy. This is the first week I can genuinely say I'm super busy. It's like the old times. And I don't know that I was prepared for that. I'm not even prepared for that this next week, to tell you the truth, because it feels very, 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 very busy. Even though when I look back a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it was a normal week. But I wasn't home much this week during the day. I know because I looked at my checking account this morning and I had 5 days of eating out for lunch. That hasn't happened since February of last year, probably.
Right.
And I also looked at my cell phone and saw that I was texting and calling more people than I have, but they were short calls. They were, I'm running 5 minutes late. Or, do you want me to pick up a cup of coffee on the way in? The usual stuff that was just so effortless a year and a half ago that this week required effort.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
don't know if did you feel the same way or did you feel differently?
Well, I think I felt more overwhelmed. I think was my again. I knew what I had in front of me on the week. I didn't think it would be as impactful as it was, and I think when it happened, I didn't have the opportunity to adjust. The first day, the first day that we almost missed, but we got the recording online. We had recorded it fine. I just completely spaced on it in the morning. I had to be somewhere at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock. I forget even when. And then when I got to where I was busier than I thought, which I should have known. And, it was midday and I got the text from Liz and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot to do that. And then I was in a place where I had bad internet, was struggling to try and download the recording we had. So I just wasn't as aware. Then we got the next day and then we mixed up our conversations on the following day. And so I think that's one of those things that sometimes happens. And it reminds me, and I was thinking about that over the day. I was the same way. Like I was really bummed. I'm like, we got to get this in one way or another. I think he even said, what if we do it at 8 p.m. rather than at 8 a.m.?
Yeah, it's something I couldn't do.
Yeah. So I mean,
I got in the way of that. Yeah.
Going to happen. And I think had we sat down and said, hey, you know what? This week is going to be nuts. How are we going to do this? And we had done that before. We recorded a full week of shows prior to another week that was like that. And I think for whatever reason, we were just not there this week, which happens. You set aside an intention. And a lot of this is who you are as a person, right? This is the way you want to behave. This is the way that I want my brand to be, is that everything you're on top of everything
at 8 a.m.
Yeah, and that this was the way we wanted to show up. And sometimes it doesn't happen. And sometimes it feels like a huge letdown. And I think it's probably more that way for ourselves than for others.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in your work or with your team or with your family and you have a little off day, they realize that, okay, you know what? I didn't really like that interaction and the way that they were interacting, but that's just was an off day. Unless it becomes a routine, then it's really changing what your personal brand looks like.
Whether you intended to or not.
Correct.
So Tom, if you're willing, I want to give folks a little insight into how we do our coaching. Because you and I both coach people. We do it in the Renegade Success Network. And we have a situation here that is not dissimilar to what we hear from people in the group.
Sure.
I had this expectation. I didn't meet it. I'm really mad at myself. I want to, someone said to me a couple weeks ago, I want to like string myself up and poke arrows in my heart. Okay.
So extreme.
So here's the magic of what you and I do, and not everyone understands this. So it's a great opportunity. Rather than say, "Oh, that's really sad. I'm sure it won't happen again." It happened. What are you going to do? What we do is, okay, what's the next step? How do you make an improvement or a change? If this is not what you want, if you don't want to miss days, what are you two guys going to do differently this coming week or 6 weeks from now or 6 months from now when the problem arises again? Because now you know it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And we also know somewhere in our brains between the two of us, the solution. So do you have a thought on how we can solve this problem?
Well, I think that there's a number of ideas of how to solve it. And I think it's figuring out what is the one that's going to work best for the two of us. As I think about it, is us looking at not just the week ahead, but the month ahead. All right, what's going on this month? Because there's no saying that we have to, if we have a quiet month, we could actually record 2 weeks of shows. Or I'm sorry, if we have a quiet week, we could record 2 weeks of shows. We do one and then we stop. And then we know we have another free half hour or whatever. Great, let's record the other. And that's for next week because we know next week is going to be crazy. That's one.
That's great. I had another idea. Can I share an idea?
Sure.
we record 5 episodes that could run anytime we want on on just a topic. So
Sure.
that if we have a day where it's like, Tom, I lost my voice last night, or
Sick.
my internet, I have no electricity. Oh, shoot, that's a problem. And we could just queue up one of those 5, and no, people might know, but at least it would be there.
Sure.
And I was mad at myself for not having thought of that sooner. When I reached that conclusion earlier today, I was like, I know better. Redundancy.
It's the challenge that we all face, right? We're so knee deep in it that we're worried about the now. It's really hard to think about the future. You know, if we were a big time show, they'd have an executive producer who was not only thinking about, you know, there was some other producer who was thinking about the now. How is it going to get launched? Who's going to download it? Who's going to make sure that it actually runs that day?
Right.
And someone way up above that is thinking about down the road. Hey, you know what? I know you've got vacation scheduled for this week. Are we going to be able to do it live, or do we need to do it recorded? And so that, all right, great. If we need to record a show for the week of August 15th, when can we schedule that in? Let's get it done now. We'll record it, and then we do it later. And I think,
do you see the comment from Tim? Good morning, Tim. That one made me laugh really hard.
Okay. Well, and so here's the other thing. What is real for us now is different than what was real when Tim did offer that. And I think those are the things that can happen. So it wasn't like we were wrong to tell Tim, or, you know, we talked about hiring someone to do it as well. That wasn't wrong. That was just what was real in the moment. Based on our knowledge, we were like, we're not having any issues with this. This pandemic
not going anywhere.
Right.
No one's happening at 8 a.m.
Yeah. And so that in the moment, that was the appropriate decision. Well, now things have changed. And now we need to take a different look at, well, okay, what does this look like? And how does this all tie in together with all the other things we're doing? You know, and we've talked about this before. You know, there's the coaching side of what we do, and then there's all the other stuff, you know, graphics and making sure we're doing newsletters and working on books and all these other things that are a part of our Renegade Success Network, which for both of us is just a piece of all the business that we do. You know, you have one client that takes up a lot of time, and you have other people you work with. I officiate and assign lacrosse. So that's another part of what I do. And I have all the other nonprofit and other coaching work that I do outside of the Renegade Success Network. And so it's hard to stay on top of all of those things. And I think that is the challenge that many people, organizations, you know, this week we're talking about personal brand. Think about the family dynamic of, if you have, you know, more than one person, now you're trying to balance what's their schedule, what's your schedule. We only, you know, we have 3 cars and 5 people. We're trying to figure that out today. We have 3 cars and 4 people who all have different things they need to do. How do we manage that? And sometimes it gets messed up. And I think the key, as you so said, that what we do in the coaching is, okay, we messed up. What's the next step? What's the next thing we need to do so that we just don't get stuck in, we messed up. And now we just throw our hands up and say, you know what? All of these weeks are going to be like this. So maybe we just stop doing today's antidote, and will it really matter? And I think
I did go through that thought for a minute.
I'm sorry?
I did go through that thought for a minute. But I also said, no, that's not how I want to show up in the world. But I think that's part of this, is stepping back enough to go through that. And for me, it was really stepping back and looking at what we were doing together, what we were doing separately, and really what is coming down the pike. And I think so often we all get set in our ways. This is how it is. The way it is today is the way it's going to be 10 years from now. That customer that you can count on always being there every day is going to be there every day. And then a merger comes and you're no longer the vendor. Or they just didn't manage their money really well and they're out of business.
Right.
And you were banking on that consistent pay, and then you've got to adapt. And I think where I wish we had gone sooner is to think about contingencies. What if? And I think that's one of those things that I find valuable, is to invest the time and say, okay, Tom, what would happen if you didn't have time to do this for 2 weeks? Would I do it alone without you? Would we record it a different way? Would it be you talking on screen, recorded, and then me talking live and going, hey, I'm here today, and Tom couldn't be here, but he recorded a message for you all on this topic? I don't know. All those are possible, though, right?
Well, here's the thing. And this is where I think it comes back to your when you started talking about coaching. This is the thing. Very few people have the foresight to be able to do that, or to think about those things that could be coming up.
You mean in their own life for themselves?
In their own life, right. Or in their own work, or whatever the case.
I thought you were making it like we're superheroes and we're the only two people in the world who can think that way.
Well, I know you have a cape, so you're probably the superhero. I'm probably the sidekick. And I think what happens is that we just get stuck in what we know, what's real for us, right? So if someone else was coaching us, they would be like, hey, you guys have done this for 362 days in a row. That's amazing. Or, work days, weekdays. What happens if somebody gets sick?
Right.
What happens if somebody has a death in the family and they can't be there? How are you going to manage that? We'd have been like, crap, we hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Because we didn't need to at the moment, right? And
Right.
Unfortunately, we don't think about those things until, like what happened with us this past week, until they happen. And now we're like, what are we going to do to adjust? And, that taking that time, or having someone just come in and say to you, like, did you think about this? What are you going to do if this? It's all about being asked the questions that you can't think of because you're so in the actual doing of whatever it is, or so stuck in not being able to figure out what to do next that you can't.
We're so overwhelmed that there isn't even the ability to do either of those things.
Right.
You're just, I got to get done. I got to get done. And you can't even take a break. I was talking to someone last week. They're like, I can't take a break this week. I'm like, you got to take a break. They weren't getting any sleep. They were starting to make bad decisions. I'm like, you can't run 85 hours straight. It just isn't going to work.
Well, and I think the most successful people, many people think that when you become successful, why would you need a coach? When I think in reality is those are one of the reasons you need a coach, is because you are so busy doing and seeing the fruits of your labor, you can't see what is coming that's about to whack you in the face. And I think that's the challenge, is you feel like, well, why do I need help? Things are going great. Yeah, they're always going great until they're not.
Yeah.
Or they're going so great that you don't see what is about to strike. We had gone 362 days our episodes, and it had been great. We couldn't see the time that was going to be an issue. And it smacked us in the face, which is okay. We get up, we get started, and our decision was, great. Our next step was, let's do a Saturday one that we were going to do at 10, but some things came up, and we were just like, okay, great. We'll do it at 11. Or we'll do it whenever we're ready to do it. And I think that next step reinforces to us the value of what we do, which means we'll be back here Monday at 8 a.m. to do our next show. Right. And I think that's...
Or if we're not, I bet you there's a show one way or another sometime Monday.
Correct.
Who knows what could happen.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things to consider that you don't know, because we only know, again, what's real for us. What's our knowledge, experience, and perspective. For us...
book on that, Tom.
I've been working on that, trying to
get... Really?
Yeah, people keep telling me I need to write a book on that. I need to give some more foresight about when that timing is best. This week might be a good time for that. We'll see.
Okay. All right. Nice. Nice. Well, Tom, it's that time of the day at a weird time today, but what's that one thing for you today?
I think the one thing is we can have great intentions and we can be meeting those intentions to the best of our ability, and it works out great until it doesn't. And I think don't let those quote unquote unsuccessful intentions, or when you can't meet your intentions, stop you. Take a step back, ask yourself the question, what can I do differently? And figure out how to move forward. And I would also say that, if you're really struggling with that, it's a great time to bring someone else in to ask you the questions that you can't think of because you're so in the middle of it.
But I would add to that, Tom, that person you bring in can't be your competitor. It can't be your key employee. I find it can't be a family member very often.
Sure.
It needs to be someone who has no vested interest. As one of my clients says to me all the time, you can say anything because you have no emotion in it.
Correct.
And I can't do that with you and me.
Right, because we're so emotionally involved in all that we have done to get to this point. And it's like a lot of other things. It's whether that's relationships with family and friends, whether it's relationships with team members or staff members, or whether it's, relationships in business with partners and all those things. You sometimes can't step back to ask the question, had you thought about this? And they'd be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
No, actually we hadn't.
Well, because in some of those cases, if you say it to another business leader, they're going to be like, if you say, hey, I'm really worried that we might lose our big client. Really? What are you doing wrong? That's not the question.
Correct. That's right.
Nor is the question, so you could be bankrupt by the end of the week.
Right.
That's not the question, but that's what the question would be in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And then that person you told would tell 14 other people, even though you're just spitballing big time.
Right.
And that's where I think you and I have found, it comes back to the way we did it with each other. We would get together and one or the other of us or both of us would have an issue. I don't ever remember having a horse in the race other than helping you get where you wanted to go.
And I also don't ever remember not walking away feeling like we'd found that next step.
Oh,
figured out how
every time. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Well,
that's what we brought with the Renegade Success Network. Literally, that we were doing it for each other. And we're like, hey, you know what? We should expand this because there are others in the same situation. And for those who have taken that opportunity, they are having huge results.
Absolutely.
Huge results. And if you're someone who doesn't know what I mean when I say those huge results, private message me, send me a note on Facebook. I'm happy to share the amazing success stories. I'll even give you names and you can ask them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everyone. If you have something you'd like to share about what happens when you don't meet your intentions, please feel free to put it in the comments in the chat, or you can talk about it in the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. It's easy. If you're not a member, it's easy to join. Just go to Facebook, search for Ring of Renegades.
I was getting ready to ask you, is it a private group, Tom, or is it a public group?
It is actually a private group, Bob.
No!
Yes, we are creating a safe space where people can come in and have those real conversations about what is real for them right now and how do they figure out what their next step is. So if you'd like to be a part of that, it's easy to do. Just ask us to join. And then we'll ask you to tell us why you're a renegade. And you can be a part of this growing community of people who are trying to figure out their next step along their own unique pathway to success.
Over 1,000 people so far.
Over 1,000 members and growing. So I'm going to share some further information about that. We hope that we will see you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, or we'll see you Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time for our next, fingers crossed, edition of today's Antidote. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we will see you soon.
Carving your own path is tough. You want and need a community to offer you insights and advice, share inspiration, provide support, and save you time and money.
But where do you find all that? Here's the easy answer: the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where leaders, entrepreneurs, and business owners identify their next steps. Here's some of what you will find at the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. Just go to ringofrenegades.com and join today. Find and accomplish those next steps.